So I was asked to find an ice cream van for a countrywide tour of the UK. So now I need to start thinking about the list of requirements and customisations and whatever else I need to do to get this Transit safe to drive and completely road legal. Ford themselves have claimed over the years that the Transit was the backbone of Britain, and this working motor has definitely seen a lot of trade. But that reminds me, I just need to make a quick hands-free call to a nutty mate in the motor trade.
Roadrunner Motor Trade Insurance, the one and only. Spanners here. What can I do for you?
Yeah, thanks, Spanners. I'm actually looking for some motor trade insurance.
All right then, let's get into the nuts and bolts. Do you work full-time or part-time? We cover both.
Definitely full-time, possibly overtime. Certainly no time for anything else like moonlighting or hobbies or making YouTube videos.
Cracking stuff, mate. How long have you been in the motor trade for?
Some might say far too long. Others would say I don't even have a real job. But I did get my first trader's policy back in the 90s when I was just 23 years old. Doesn't he look sweet?
Like butter wouldn't melt. Tell me about your vehicles. What do you work with? We cover vehicles up to a value of 50,000.
Well, we have weird stuff like oranges, beds, giant shopping trolleys, bathrooms and sofas. But my standard cars and light commercials are mainly stuff like broken Range Rovers and Volkswagen vans. And we do have a really super car, but it is the cheapest Ferrari in Europe. So 50 grand will definitely more than double the cover we need.
That sounds pretty nuts, mate. What type of cover are you after? I mean, we can do road risk, public liability or both. Cover your workshop premises as well too if you need.
Having seen John behind the wheel and the way I look at camera for way too long when driving, I think we'd better go for the road risk and public liability together. Whoa!
Cracking stuff. Oh yeah, we can cover vehicles at your home address too. That's just standard for us.
It's great that our cars are going to be covered at home too. Woo! What about dragging a trailer behind you? And what about the vehicle that's on it or in it?
Not a problem, mate. We can cover trailers worth up to £3,000 while you tow them. And if you've got a vehicle on your trailer, we'll cover that as well.
And what about all of my kit, my vitally important and invaluable tools when I'm working out and about?
You got a mobile workshop, have you? That's fine by us. We can cover mechanics' tools while they're stored in your van. Sound good?
Brilliant, please sign me up. But just a thought, what if I'd been offered some kind of job to dispose of unwanted meerkats, for example? Would you better offer me cover for that?
What a nutter.
Hello? Spanners? Spanners? Well, I guess it's not technically a motor trade thing, is it really? Kidnap. Right then, so this is a 1983 short wheelbase Mark II Ford Transit that's been converted into an ice cream van at some point in its history. Now, it's not a particularly handsome conversion, but the manufacturers were proud enough to add their name badge to the bodywork. And it was quite a standard thing at the time just to hack off the kind of top of the original steel van body and bond on a custom high-top fiberglass body to accommodate a standing average height ice cream vendor and their full-height serving hatch, with plenty of room for price stickers of what is on offer. Now, ice cream vans tend to be either hard, with just a freezer for scoop ice cream or lollies, or soft, with a power takeoff from the diesel engine that drives the beater and refrigerant compressor of the actual ice cream machine that's next to me. Thankfully, a soft ice cream machine van like this is actually a bit more valuable, but as Spanners wants me to swap that for a tea making facility, I guess that point is a little bit moot. Now, according to the chassis plate just underneath the sink there, the van has a revenue weight of 2,450 kilograms, but it feels much heavier. It kind of does have a eutectic freezer in the back for the lollies and all the gubbins beside me for the soft ice cream machine, but it also has extra batteries and an inverter for extra drinks fridge and lighting and stuff in here. But the steering is just kind of very heavy, but it's also very mushy and imprecise. Now, that could be down to kind of squidgy tires and things, but it feels more like worn bushes or even perhaps kind of wobbly bracketry. Now, this thing is powered by a 2,369cc four-cylinder diesel engine and produces a whipping great 43 kilowatts or 58 horsepower, which is just about enough to get you on your way to your pitch. But I'm not sure how much fun it's going to be to drive for long distances. As you can hear, it is very, very loud, and we've got up to fourth gear and it's not ideal. Ford did break out the crayons for a facelift back in 1983 and also went to the trouble of adding an extra 100 cc's to the engine offering. But to be fair, This did add about 10 horsepower, so the 2.5 litre engine was welcome, but nothing like as lovely as the famous petrol 3 litre V6. Unfortunately, this van was actually born too early for the facelift and the sportier engine, so we may have to think about that as a serious upgrade later on if Spanners complains. The good news is though that it's rear wheel drive, so we might one day get to have donuts with our tea.
What speed are we doing? I have no idea.
Now, according to the speedo, I'm doing somewhere between 65 and 75 miles an hour. I have no idea what the actual top speed is, but the wayward steering isn't helping and the sketchy braking isn't ideal either. Now, it does stop, but I'm not entirely confident how long that's actually going to last. And also, the handbrake doesn't work at all. And in fact, I think it's actually snapped the cable, so that definitely wouldn't go for an MOT. But thankfully, as it's over 40 years old, it's been exempt from needing an MOT since March 2023. But I don't think it shows as a classic on the V5, so I'm going to need to fix the handbrake for that, and also to be able to loiter safely on hills too. Now, as we noticed when we were kicking the tyres, the offside headlight doesn't actually work, and they could both do with being kind of upgraded from candle lights to a full-on warm glow. And perhaps the most heinous oversight in all of this is a complete lack of ice cream van chimes. It's not a proper ice cream van without the chimes, but as Spanners wants a T-wagon for the motor trade, I need to find a tune that's more appropriate and a little different sort of to the usual green sleeves. Now, Spanners also mentioned changing the ice cream cones at the front for Spanners, and while I'm at it, I also need to upgrade the signage all the way around, and we can definitely do better than just a little bit of backlighting. Now, inside the cab, it's pretty nasty. The seat is really quite horrible, and that's not that comfortable, which is surprising because Transit's are normally really good at that. So I think it's just down to a bit of old age and a bit of abuse. It needs to be kind of spruced up a bit and maybe re-stuffed. I also need to try and work out how to get Spanner's tail to fit. But if we are going to swap out the ice cream machine for a tea machine, well, maybe we could put a passenger seat back in somehow. And obviously we have a kitchen sink, but no cup holders, and we absolutely must have cup holders if we're going to have tea on tap. Now, this old van was showing just 43,000 miles on the last MOT it passed back in 2021. So it's not high mileage, but they must have been quite hard miles. And bear in mind that, of course, it's going to be running all day, every day to make the soft ice cream. So as I have no service history at all, along with all the MOT work it's going to need, I need to do a real proper service as well. But it's currently showing about 43,604 miles. Now, actually, kind of when you come up to traffic lights or whatever, the idling is actually quite a relief because it isn't so horrendous. So you can imagine when it's sort of chugging away, making ice cream, it's not actually that bad. And in fact, the actual ice cream machine itself is going to be quite noisy because of all the bearings and pulleys and stuff inside. So it's really just driving to somewhere that's the issue, but that's not my problem, hopefully. I'm sure Spanners, with all his fur, you know, might be a little bit quieter. Now, I've only managed to find 4 gears so far. Oh my word. And I don't know, I kind of wish there was a 5th gear. There might actually be a 5-speed box available. You could have a look at that perhaps. But again, I don't know how fast Spanners want to go around the country. Hopefully not too quickly. Finally, the interior workspace is actually quite tidy, except for a little bit of mould that needs to be cleaned away. It's got plenty of cupboards and the surfaces should all scrub up quite nicely. And the external bodywork is actually quite good nick as well. And whenever anybody actually thinks about the paint job, however shocking, rude or hurtful their comments, yes, same to you, Vicar, as Spanners wants the whole thing to be covered in fur, I also need to get on the hunt for some fabulous faux fur for a fantastically furry finale. I could also do with actually fixing the wing mirror here because I can't see anything. I mean, really, it keeps flopping about all over the place. So I'm not even sure if something could be tightened up, but whatever. Another thing for the list. You could probably do with a temperature gauge as well because we're chumming along here quite nicely. I can smell a lot of kind of hot oil. Didn't actually check the water level, to be honest. But I think when it's being used all the time, it's probably going to be fine. But, and also as we're going along, hopefully the air will cool things down. But it definitely smells hotter than it did when it was just idling. But I've got no temperature at all. Obviously the speedo's all over the place, need to fix that. Fuel gauge is showing I've got 1/4 of a tank, but then of course that might be a complete lie, so I should probably check that as well. There's a few things that need to go. So I guess we've got the seat, we've got obviously all the exterior stuff that we're going to just change anyway. We've got the MOT stuff, so we've got to sort out the brakes, got to sort out the handbrake, got to sort out perhaps the speedo, the headlights. I mean, yeah, it's quite a lot of work actually. We'll be fine. Oh, this steering really is kind of very, well, vague isn't really the word. It's like stirring, well, ice cream, I guess. Porridge, that sort of thing. Any of those cliches can apply here. Oh my word. Right then, well, let's get this Transit back to the workshop and on the ramp and see how much actually needs fixing. And if we can even get the parts.